Giddy up, get up, you do. Oh, there we are. I'm just going to stumble my way in here. So, hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome once again to EDH Study Hall. This is Johnny Slivers, and we're continuing our trek through beta. Beginning here where we left off, I believe the last episode, episode 15, we ended on Raging River, an interesting enchantment for red that kind of played some shenanigans with the combat steps and combat arrangements of blocking and attacking and all that good stuff. And let's see, now we're picking up on Raised Dead. So, as we drudge, let's see, Raised Dead, one of the original reanimation spells, and for some reason I had the problem of like wanting to play this card over Animate Dead, which was dumb. And it got lots of reprintings, lots of different arts for Raised Dead. It is a sorcery for 1 black, and it simply states return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Now, this is this is relevant for creatures that have enter the battlefield effects that require you to cast them. So for 1 extra mana, basically, you add 1 to the casting cost, and you're playing something from your graveyard. So that's where it becomes a little more relevant. Like certain things that do, like Eldrazi, certain Eldrazi require you to cast them. Not that they stay in the graveyard very long. Most big Titan Eldrazi's are going to be, they just recycle themselves out of the graveyard. So, it's a basic reanimation spell. It's very affordable. It's not there are better options. There are lots of options in EDH when it comes to reanimation. So, this usually gets cut very early if you're making edits to your deck. But if you are starting out in a reanimation deck and you want just some basic stuff, Raised Dead's a good starting point. So moving on to the next one down the list after the Raised Dead, we've got Red Elemental Blast. Red Elemental Blast made it all the way to 4th edition, then got a little love in Masters 25. It is an interrupt, aka, well, let's go to the Masters version, will be an instant. All interrupts have been converted to instant. It is a 1 red mana instant. It says choose 1, counter target blue spell, or destroy target blue permanent. This is a good sideboard tech for a lot of burn spells and legacy, and definitely becomes very helpful in that setting when it comes to EDH. This is, being a one-off. It's kind of it's a little trickier when you're dealing with instants. You have to have a real specific target, or you have to know that your meta is going to support this card. I imagine, I don't know what the count for blue on like primary commanders was. Let's go jump into EDH Rec here and take a look. So I did this with Northern Paladin with the episode of the breakdown, and we were talking about how it was possibly worth your time to put Northern and Southern Paladins into a any white deck, basically because 20 top commanders, it being reported here by EDH Rec, they're all either in black or in red. And when it comes to blue, we're going to do a little head count here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's in the last week. So, there's only, out of all the top meta cards in EDH right now, as being reported by EDH Rec, Red Elemental Blast doesn't have as much support. There's not as many targets out there. A lot of people are kind of getting in. There's only about half of them are actually blue. So it does have an effect on whether or not you should play something. The only reason I'd suggest running something like a Southern or Northern Paladin is because there are so many commanders that fall into the color scheme of either one of them. It's worth kind of running the pair. But when it comes to Red Elemental Blast, it's not so strong in EDH, and it's definitely, I would advise a lot of caution before actually running this in a deck. So we're just going to move on to our next one. But yeah, Red Elemental Blast was great sideboard tech for red burn decks, Naya burn, all the burns. Oh, here we go. Then we get to Red Ward. This is a 1 mana enchant creature. Target creature gains protection from red. Still lots of other things that can do the same job better. Definitely going to advise against that for EDH. Regeneration, this was an enchant creature. Got a lot of printings throughout the years. It's very affordable. It's 1 in a green for an enchantment aura. Basically enchant creature, target creature, blah, blah, blah. You pay 1 green and regenerate Enchanted Creature. I am just stumbling over my words tonight. My apologies. Um, this is mm, this is an early cut from the 99. I think there's a lot of quality creatures these days that already have the regeneration ability built into them. So usually this spell is getting subbed out for something else that's going to give the creature probably protection or a better ability. I mean, it's nice to have it as a tool, but I would, I think again, one of those things where we've gone far enough into the game that there are better options to play over this. Although that original art, this is an original Quentin Hoover. The art's pretty flashy. That's some cool art, but the ability is better off just playing a troll for a couple more mana. Let's get along here down to Regrowth. Now this one definitely has a place in a reanimation build. You'll find this, it applies pretty much to every EDH deck. It's gotten enough printings where it's not out of control on pricing, and it's a great reanimator card. Well, retrieval card, not so much reanimator. I should rephrase that. So it's 1 and a green for a sorcery. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Now, over the years, there have been a number of different cards in green that have done similar things. This was very early in the history of the game. It was a very powerful card, and it still has relevance in EDH even to this day if you're running some kind of reanimation. But in my opinion, personally, like when you're talking about reanimation, you are usually better off with something that has like a static ability, something or a repeatable ability. This is more of a one-off, and that's the only thing you have to be mindful of. It can be a clutch one-off when you need it because it retrieves any card, and that's important. A lot of the other iterations of this effect have come through, but they had limitations. They may have only targeted a creature, or in some cases they only target a green, actually a green spell. So that's the hang up. That's why this card was so much better, and for a long time it commanded a pretty decent price until it got some more reprints. And yeah, I got a dual deck reprint and just a Masters and Modern Horizons reprint. I think up until maybe that dual deck, it was a bit more than this like $1.40 threshold here. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I remember it being more at some point. I guess I don't know if we'd see anything like that in MTG stocks, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Let's move along. Getting further along. Oh, we're getting there. Regeneration, regrowth, resurrection. Resurrection was the worst animate dead of the bunch. This did pretty much the same thing, but for twice as much mana. It was 2 and 2 white. Take a creature from your graveyard and put it directly into play. You can't tap it until your next turn. So basically saying that it had summoning sickness. It had not really seen it dropped off after revised. They brought it back in Time Spiral of all things. Interesting. And then I think being in Time Spiral made it modern legal, and then it got a reprint in Ultimate Masters here, and it's a much needed upgrade on the artwork for sure. But it's just the problem with this card is it only targets your graveyard. It costs twice as much as Animate Dead, generally slower, and that's part of the reason it costs what it does. They also downshifted it to common, which is good news for Pauper if you're into the format. But I mean, there are again better things to play in its place if you're running EDH. The fact that it is in white is helpful, though. That's the other end of it. Like a lot of these reanimation kind of spells you're going to find will be in black or green, or sort of a combo of the two. Having this ability in white is useful, especially if you're in like a blue-white build and you just need some way of getting something like a key creature back. But again, like when you're in those kinds, I think if you're going in that direction anyway, yeah, again, why don't we go ahead and take a look at, I'm curious to see what the actual specs are for the EDH analysis. Resurrection. Oh, have a little look here, just for humoring. Well, all right. So it's a non-zero amount. There's over 500 decks being reported on EDH playing Resurrection, and I wouldn't be surprised if those numbers are more from in the last year since Ultimate Masters, when it was printed, got its reprint at common. People had more access to it, maybe became more familiar with it. I imagine cards, we see a lot of these cards that never made it past a revised 4th or 5th edition. I feel like these cards are not on people's radar as much because they are so old, and people who weren't around 25 years ago playing the game, they may not be recalling them unless they're like combing through all of the lists and looking for these options. So to a player who's pretty green to the format, this might not have been on the radar until it got this reprint. So I wouldn't be surprised if these numbers are represented by that reprint and people just kind of experimenting with that. Again, but for me personally, I think I would go a different direction if I'm doing reanimation and run this as probably more a casual deck if I'm going to run this at all. Let's get into after resurrection. We've got reverse damage. Reverse damage is an instant speed spell, 1 and 2 white. Let's get got a bunch of printings too. Made it up to 9th edition. That made it modern legal. Interesting. The newer vocabulary used in this card was the next time a source of your choice would deal damage to you, gain that much life. You gain that much life, or prevent that damage, you gain that much life. That's important. So you prevent the damage, you gain the life. It's kind of this like buys you a turn if someone's going in with a really big beefy creature, but it's not going to protect you against a swarm. So that's the only downside. Well, no, there's plenty of downside to this. As far as life gain, as far as life gain goes, it's just in EDH you need something more consistent. Again, always looking for something that has more resilience over time. So the next time a source, this only targets one source. Very often, if you're getting blown out by some kind of aggro build, you're dealing with multiple sources of damage. So it's only going to save you so much. And that's still not, I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't get me. I'm not really up to wanting to put this card in any of my decks, but it's there. So, that's the process. We comb on through and we are going to just check them all out. Righteousness. This is an instant speed for instant for 1 white mana. Target defending creature gains +7/+7 until end of turn. Combat trick, like Isochron Scepter food, but I mean, there's always better things to put on that. And then it's on defense, so you're counting on the attacks. So if you're playing against a really controlling deck that's not counting on combat all that much, that's kind of I don't know. They're better when you can put them on an attacking creature, and that's why this probably would get the axe. I would say, let's pass on this. All right, what's up next? Righteousness, Rock Hydra, and it's on the reserve list, I think. Let's go ahead. I want to double check that. I think Rock Hydra. Let's say what it is. So Rock Hydra never got past revised. I remember having one of these, and it was just kind of like everybody, I don't know, Rock Hydra was a big bad back in the day. So it's 2 red mana and X. It's a summon Hydra. You put X +1/+1 counters heads on Hydra. Each point of damage Hydra suffers kills 1 head unless controller spends 1 red per head during controller's upkeep. New heads may be grown for 3. That's the wording on this card is we're talking 1993 Magic when this card was created. They were all up on that word soup. All right, let's get some Scryfall going here. That's kind of a Rock Hydra. All right, Rock Hydra. Here we go. Show me the Oracle text. All right, Rock Hydra enters battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. For each 1 damage that would be dealt to Rock Hydra, if it has a +1/+1 counter on it, remove a +1/+1 counter from it and prevent that 1 damage. Prevent the next 1 damage that would. All right, pay 1 red, prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to Rock Hydra this turn. So you can actually negate out the damage. That's an interesting ability to be able to kind of, I don't know, you like draw off the damage as it's being done. That's an interesting ability. The 0/0 is the tough part. You can add counters, you can make it bigger. I mean, there's something to this. If you had, I guess, if you went Hydra Tribal, and I imagine it's there. Let's dig into this. Why don't we'll do like a impromptu kind of breakdown on the Hydra, and that might be a good wrap-up point. So Rock Hydra's got this interesting ability here where you can pay to prevent damage. Now it's a 0/0 body. If it runs out of heads, it's dead. But if we have a way to, where I want to go looking for this. Yeah, we'll look in here. The advanced settings in Scryfall are pretty cool. We can go by card to type Hydra. Let's see if Hydra's a thing. card type? No. Well, let's try it. Let's see what happens. Let's just search for the parameters of Hydra, see what happens. All right. No, there's nothing there. All right. Maybe we need to look up creature type. Type line. Oh, there we go. Maybe I misspelled it because that's how I do. All right. Now, Hydra Tribal. Let's consider the options here. If we've got Hydra Tribal, do we have enough? Even like red green. We got 1, 2, 3. Bioessence Hydra. Let's go Teamer Hydras. Go Jund Hydra, I guess technically. You know what? Oh, then you've got Selesnya Hydra. Then you've got Progenitus is a Hydra. Ramana Hydra. There's a lot of Hydra out there. Heavily in green. But it is possible to probably do... I bet you could do a red-green Hydra Tribal. So with so if you had something... You got Hydra Tribal. You could do something like... Obelisk of something. I'm blanking on it. Was M15. I'll come back to it. I'm sure I'll remember at some point. But from M15, it was an artifact that had Convoke, and you could pick creature type, and all those creatures would get a buff. So if you had a way to keep the Rock Hydra alive with some kind of a buff, or say a bonus enchantment, equipment, something that would just keep it from dying if it loses all of its heads. This is an interesting idea. You have a way to like sap the damage off of it to keep it from dying. You can make it bigger. It's an interesting concept. I can't think of a way to break the ability to prevent one damage. Yeah, has one. If it has it, and you remove the 1/1 counter. So I don't know. There might be a workaround for this. We'll have to like log this one in the back of our minds to just be like keep it in mind if there's actually a home for it. Hydra Tribal might be able to support it if you've got some kind of generic Anthem effect that's going to give it that buff and keep it alive. But at that point, you're doing a lot of work for a single card that isn't really putting out a lot of damage. I mean, the big thing back in the day was you mana flare your way into putting out a huge Rock Hydra, and that was the big deal until people figured out that Terror and Source of Plowshare were a thing. So I would say it's a maybe. It's a low priority card in my mind. I don't think it's going to see too much play. What's EDH Rex saying right now? And it's only showing up in 80 decks, and I'm not surprised either. There's a lot of upkeep and maintenance to just keep this thing running. So it's really not I don't know. I mean, if there's a way to crack it, I want to keep an open mind to that. But ultimately, I don't think it's got the power you want. And let's see. I think where does that leave us? Is Rock Hydra a good endpoint? Yeah, that's fine. We'll leave off on that. So there it is. That is our 16th episode for the beta edition of the beta. Yes, EDH Study Hall for beta. I hope some of that was interesting, and a lot of this was kind of like meh. But here it is, and we march on. We keep marching on into the ether. So until next time, I hope that was helpful in any possible way I could possibly bring that to you. Click the like button, subscribe. Drop a comment if you want to, and you can find me on Twitter at Johnny Slivers. And yeah, we're gonna wrap it up there. Hope you're having a good evening, and until next time, may your top decks be epic.